Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Coco and Daltz. I'm not Daltz.
I'm not Coco.
And we're coming at you today with something that's a little bit different from what we usually do. Normally we kind of do reviews of current movies and TV shows, but today...
We're reviewing pottery.
No, now we have to retape this because everybody's going to turn it off now.
Everyone is going to turn it off?
That is absolutely not what we're reviewing today, listener. What we're reviewing today is sports movies because since there's no sports actually going on in the world, we figured we would talk about what to watch when you miss baseball or football or hockey or basketball or golf or whatever.
Or bowling.
Yeah, whatever you tend to enjoy.
And I just want to give some mad props to Coco for this because this was her idea. And I thought, what a great idea. Sports movies when there are no sports.
And then it took us like 2 weeks to actually get around to taping it.
Right.
So
Because we've been really busy disinfecting the house and the car and the lawn and the mailbox.
And sitting at home doing nothing.
Right. Yeah. Looking at each other.
So, Daltz, what movie would you like to recommend?
Well, I think this is going to be a great surprise to listener, but my favorite movie of all time...
Is it your favorite movie
Slapshot.
of all time?
No, maybe top 3.
Your favorite sports movie of all time?
Favorite sports movie of all time?
All right.
Slapshot. It's a movie for those who don't know. Well, if you haven't seen this movie, what's the matter with you? And you're listening to this podcast, it's essentially the downtrodden story of a minor league team in Charleston, Pennsylvania, I think it is, and a mining town, and the team is going to be sold and moved and maybe stop operating.
It's
maybe
a hockey movie.
It's a hockey movie, and it's a completely legitimate, awesome, authentic, fantastic, real hockey movie. So there's lots of hockey language in there. So you don't want to watch this at home with the kiddies or with your grandma. You want to be careful because it's got hockey language in it. And, you know, when there's violence in a sport, you're going to say some bad words. And there's some bad words in this movie. And there's a little bit of blood and there's some fisticuffs. But it's great. It's a great story of Nancy Dowd is the writer. And this is from the 70s. So she was really ahead of her time in terms of being a woman writing a mainstream movie. Total mad props to her. It was based on the story of her brother.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, who played in the minor leagues. And her brother is actually in the movie. He plays Ogie Oglethorpe. So I could go on and on about Slapshot.
Ogie Oglethorpe.
Villain Ogie Oglethorpe. There's also the Peterborough game, which is a pivotal moment in the movie. And, of course, me sort of being from Peterborough, I identify with that. I've seen this movie probably, no word of lie, I've probably seen this movie 30 times. And
wow.
The reason is because when I was riding the buses while covering the Peterborough Petes, the Petes would watch this movie probably once to 3 times a year, guaranteed, on the road. So, and that was in the olden days when it was a VHS machine. So they'd pop the tape in and we'd watch it. So I've seen that movie legit and I love it. It's a great movie. It's my favorite sports movie, my favorite hockey movie. There's no other hockey movie that really comes close. And that's all I have to say. I could talk on and I could be like 15 minutes on Slapshot, but I don't want to bore a listener too much. And I know that they're more interested in what your favorite movie is.
Well, I would just like to add Paul Newman is in Slapshot.
He's the star of the show.
He is the star. He was a little long in the tooth even in the 70s for being a semi-pro hockey player.
But he plays like the player coach who's at the end of his career, so he does a good job there. And from what I read, he wasn't a great skater when he was in the movie, but he sort of got better. And he said in years subsequent to that was one of his favorite movies that he ever made because it was very collegial because there's a lot of players around, a lot of guys, a lot of actors. And also he blames it on why he became a real world-class swearer because he was dropping F-bombs all over the place, and he blamed Slapshot from 1977, I believe it is. So a great movie. And also George Roy Hill was the director, who also did, I believe, Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, okay.
So he was a director of some renown. So it's not just some slap-together hockey movie. And I don't mean slap together, but I didn't mean to say that, but actually it came out. That joke came out naturally. So anyway, what's your favorite sports movie of all time, Coco?
Well, I think it's funny, no pun intended, that we are both recommending comedies in a very difficult time that we are all going through. But
Right.
my movie that I would recommend is Major League.
What?
From the late 80s. I was inappropriately young and watched it when it came out because parenting was a little bit different back then than
Right.
it is today.
Right.
But it is about the Cleveland Indians, who are notoriously sad sacks. Obviously, it wasn't a documentary. It was fictional, and it stars Charlie Sheen and Wesley Snipes and Dennis Haysbert and Tom Berenger and Corbin Burnson, who was on a hot streak with LA Law
Right.
at the time.
Remember Corbin Burnson? Yep.
Right. So it was super funny about the Indians. The owner, who is like a showgirl who married an old guy who was the owner, and then the old guy died and she inherited the team. She wanted them to be so bad that she would be allowed to move them from Cleveland to Miami, I believe. So they put together a roster of rejects. Charlie Sheen just got out of prison. He's a pitcher.
Talk about foreshadowing there.
Yeah. Tom Berenger was washed up. He'd just been a few years in like the Mexican League. So they put together this roster of rejects who don't do well. And then the rejects find out what her plan was, and they say, dag nabbit, we're gonna show the world
See,
that
that's the difference in baseball and hockey language right there. Hockey guys would not say dag nabbit.
I don't think they said that either.
Yeah.
There was some swearing in Major League as
Yeah.
well. So they buckle down and they actually go to practice and they work on their skills and they get
They
better.
actually run, because not a lot of baseball players run.
And then they end up at the end advancing to the World Series after beating the hated New York Yankees
Right.
in like the ALCS.
So there are a lot of things that I like about Major League. One of them is that they actually use a team.
Right.
So that the Cleveland Indians are a sad sack team that have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. And it's not like it's the Toledo Indians or something like that.
Right, the Toledo Mud Hens.
or
I believe
the
that's
Ohio
Right.
Indians, as they might do in some other movies.
or completely, like the Salt Lake, whatever. Just like make somebody up, and it's not even
Completely.
supposed to be anybody, right?
Right,
So,
exactly. That's what I liked about that movie.
yeah, so it's very solid, full of laughs, really good. It's a feel-good movie without being obviously a feel-good movie. Like at the end, they make it to the World Series, but you don't. It's not schmaltzy.
Right.
It's not.
It's not Disney.
Right. It's not Disney. I think the only thing that maybe might be a little unnecessary is the subplot with Tom Berenger trying to get Rene Russo back. But
Rene Russo, there's a theme through our recent podcasts.
Right. We've been watching a lot of Rene Russo movies lately for some reason. So.
For some reason.
Yeah. So
She's the 90s.
I just checked. It does not appear as though Major League is available on Netflix, and it is available on Amazon, but to rent or buy. It is not free if you have Prime. But it looks like it was only like a $3.99 rental. So I know from our recent renting of the movie Contagion that works out to $4.24 with tax. So it is well worth the $4.24 with tax. And then I believe you have 30 days to watch it. So go crazy. If you have not seen it, go crazy. It is hilarious. I love it. It's been one of my favorite movies. As long as it's been out, there you go.
I know that Major League 2 is available on Netflix for free. It keeps popping up, and I say, oh, there's Major League, but it's not. It's actually Major League 2.
I never watched Major League 2. I didn't feel the need. Yeah.
Why is that? If so, one of your favorite movies of all time, and then a sequel comes out, you don't want to spoil it? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I believe even when the sequel came out, everybody was like, this is trash. And I said, all right, well, I don't need to see it then.
So in doing research before this podcast about Major League, the review is that actually Major League 2 is not too bad either.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So, but the thing that I noticed about Major League, that when I watched it, and also when you describe it back to me just now, is it's Slapshot for baseball. It's like this terrible team under threat of going under, moving / something happening to them in a terrible way. A bunch of misfits thrown together, playing the sport. They bond, they win, redemption, the end. So I'm thinking this is kind of like a common theme.
Yeah.
So Major League is just essentially baseball Slapshot.
I mean, a lot of movies sports movies are kind of like that,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
So those are our two main suggestions for sports movies since we are in the time of no sports.
Right.
Opening day for baseball would have been a week or two ago, and then the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs would be coming up very shortly. So
Yes.
this is the perfect time to watch both of those movies if you are listening to us in real time, which why wouldn't you be?
Well, and you should be listening to us immediately upon the publication button being pushed.
Right. If you're not subscribed, you need to subscribe. We're available on Apple Podcasts, on Pandora, on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Listen to us, review us, rate us, let us know what you want to hear us talk about in a future episode. But we're not quite done with this episode just yet because
So don't turn it off.
even though we have both recommended our movies, we do have some honorable mentions because we don't really know how long this thing is going to drag out. So you need a lot of recommendations for things to watch.
You're going to be watching more than one sports movie, we're pretty sure.
Right, definitely. So what's your first honorable mention, Dallas?
So I'm going to go completely off the board here.
What?
And, well, I'm going to go across the board from you. Let's put it that way. And my favorite baseball movie of all time, The Natural. And so now I pause just a little bit because then this is where Coco just goes off.
I'm not going to go off too much. I am going to say everybody gets so hard for that movie, and I don't get it.
So here's
Robert Redford, hot, sure. But
Robert Redford also, so there's a theme here maybe for me because Robert Redford plays an aging baseball player who comes back and is at the end of his career sort of, but one last kick at the thing, sort of like Paul Newman in Slapshot, he's
Right.
at the end of his career. A Bernard Malamud book, the story is based on that. And what I like about The Natural is it's on the edge of cheese. Like it's the Glenn Close standing with the sun behind her and the music, the piano tinkling and stuff like that. Like it's
you mean when he hits like the game-winning homer at the very end,
Right.
and it goes into lights and the sparks
and
are
there's-
falling on the
and there's-
field?
Yeah,
and-
exactly, exactly. There's fireworks and it's like almost like a Disney movie, but it works really well for me because it's very poetic. It's very old timey.
It is very old timey.
It's also about, I like the fact that it's this older guy coming back and trying to break in amongst the young guys. And I have a certain affinity to that kind of thing. I'm not saying why, but I like the idea of the underdog. And this is like an everyman underdog for this day and age. So, but I liked this movie 20 years ago. So even when I was not an older fella, I still liked it. And I just like the poetry of it. It's very creative. It's very authentic again with the banter between the athletes. So that's what I love about Slapshot and Major League to that certain degree is that this is the way guys talk to each other on the bench and in the locker room and all that sort of stuff on the bus. Like that's what makes these movies all so unique and good to me is like when you try to fabricate that kind of stuff, if you're as a Hollywood writer sitting there is like, what would I say if I was a jock? I was like, well, you're not. So don't even pretend. Like that's why the Nancy Dowd thing really works well to me because she rode the buses with these guys and she was writing down everything and it just feels legitimate. Like in Slapshot again, they're playing cards and they're watching soap operas when they're in the hotel rooms during the day. Like it's kind of the mundane, right? It's almost being like a rock star. You go on stage for 2 hours, but then the other 22 hours of the day, it's just so boring. You got to do something. So you in the rock star case, you do lines of Coke, but.
Well, don't discount athletes potentially doing lines of Coke as well. I mean,
that's the new way. But yeah, that's what. So circling back to The Natural, I liked it because it's so super on the edge of cheese, but I love it because it's got a real literary feel to it.
So my first honorable mention is Miracle.
Ooh,
going back to
look at
hockey.
us with the opposites, and we did not practice this at all.
We did not practice that. So I was like 3 years old when the Miracle on Ice happened.
You always got to do that, don't you?
So I did not see that live, clearly, but it's a fantastic moment. I mean, if that is for me hands down like the best American sports moment in our history, and the movie is so well done. Kurt Russell is fantastic as Herb Brooks.
Yeah,
it's another ragtag team of kids,
underdog team,
that have no business beating the fierce, experienced Soviet machine. And it's not a spoiler to tell you that they did because everybody in the world knows about the Miracle on Ice. So
again, what are you doing if you don't?
Yeah, and the hockey looked really well done.
Yep.
Because they actually cast like a whole bunch of actual
Yep.
hockey players, like college hockey players, and taught them how to act because they figured it would be easier to do that than to
Yep.
get a bunch of actors.
Did I tell you I
and-
was in Miracle? I'm
You-
actually in it.
You did not tell me that.
Yeah, I'm in. There's one scene there where there's a guy and he's skating. That's me
Oh, okay.
at the back there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that one.
Remember that scene?
So
Yeah.
I think the guy who played the goalie is an actual actor, and then pretty much everybody else is just because I mean you can put the
That's what
Jason
they do.
hockey mask on,
Right.
And, you know.
That's what they do is they put the
Right.
non-hockey player in goal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how a lot of hockey or goalies started. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you can't skate, well, go in net.
Yeah. So that's my first honorable mention.
That's a great movie. I think it's a great American movie.
Right. You're Canadian, so you're not, you know.
I like the moment. I like the movie. It's a Disney movie, so it's
Yeah.
natural that they would do that kind of story. And when we make a movie about the 1972 Summit Series, in which Canada emerges victorious over Russia in that famous series in my country, then we'll talk. But yeah, I like that. I think, and actually, I like what you said about the authentic hockey, which I should say about Slapshot too, is that these guys can skate. That's what makes the Hanson brothers so great, is that they skate like the wind, and you can tell they're not acting. Like these are crazy former minor league players. That's what they did before they were in this movie. One of the, and that brings me to a movie that I will not recommend, which is Youngblood, which is Rob Lowe portraying a hockey player, which has got to be the worst casting choice in the history of sports movies.
All you got to do is say Rob Lowe, and I'm like, yeah, I'm out.
Right, like, and he's not even skating. There's no way he's skating. Like when you see him, from the knees up on the ice, you can tell he's just kind of sliding in his running shoes. He's not really doing much of anything, and he's too pretty to be a hockey player. There's a lot of negatives there. I will go back to another honorable mention if it's my turn. If we're volleying the tennis ball back and forth here, to use a sports analogy.
Wimbledon canceled.
Bull Durham.
Oh yeah.
Is a great sports movie, a great baseball movie. Again, maybe it's a theme with me, but a minor league team, a kid on the uprise, an old veteran as a catcher, and Kevin Costner and Tim Robbins. Great chemistry between those two. Susan Sarandon. Also a very poetic movie. I had forgotten about it until I watched it within the last year or so. How literary it is because the Susan Sarandon character narrates a lot of it, right? And is talking about the poetry of baseball and all that sort of stuff. And there's some great lines in that movie about, I want to announce my presence with authority and all these things that carry on to every day. So Bull Durham is another fantastic sports movie.
And that's a young Tim Robbins movie, and I wouldn't necessarily think of Tim Robbins as Nuke LaLoosh, because I think his career has kind of gone on like a different trajectory since then. But he's just so perfect in that role; it's so funny.
Yeah.
So
how about another honorable mention for you, Coco?
So my next honorable mention is Warrior from
What?
2011. I know we did not discuss our honorable mentions. So,
No, we didn't. Well, that's good.
Yeah. So starring Tom Hardy, Joel Edgerton, and Nick Nolte, who actually got nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, yeah.
For this movie. It's actually about MMA, which is not remotely a thing that I am interested in. But this movie is just so well done. It's a family drama wrapped up in MMA because Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy are brothers. Nick Nolte is their alcoholic father. There's all sorts of relationship issues there. And then the brothers end up fighting each other in the ring, that they entered this amateur MMA contest to win money. Tom Hardy deserted the military, so he needs the money. And Joel Edgerton, I think he got fired from his job, so he needs the money to support his family. So it's really, really well done. Like it's another movie that I wouldn't say it's a feel-good movie. It's like, that the brothers are going to end up fighting each other at the end in the ring, but it's not schmaltzy. Like, there's going to be the face-off at the end. They're going to battle, but it's not, even though they end up reconciling at the end, it's not like, I love you, man, and they hug, and, the one who didn't win holds up the other one's arm in the ring. Like, it's not remotely like that at all, but it's still... It's still a really good movie. So I've been meaning to rewatch that for years, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But it's really fantastic.
Also, a good movie in that genre is The Wrestler. Even though MMA and wrestling are not the same, I understand that. But Mickey Rourke in like a swan song moment of his life. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. It was pretty brutal, actually.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark. It's a very dark sports movie. It's not exactly uplifting like you say about some of those other movies.
Yeah. So got any other recommendations, or are we good?
I would not recommend The Cutting Edge, which is a story about a hockey player becoming part of a figure skating duo. I wouldn't recommend that. I think we watched that one time on the bus, and whoever picked that, I think they got cut. I don't think they made the team after that. I think they got left wherever we were going. We were going to North Bay on the bus. He got left in North Bay. It's like, we're not watching Cutting Edge. I also think there's a great sports movie that I just discovered. It's called Hosers, which
not to be confused with Yoga Hosers.
Or is that? Oh, I'm thinking Hoosiers.
Hoosiers. Oh, okay.
So that's not the same.
Yeah.
That's not the same. Any other special recommendations by you, Coco?
I had a third movie, and then I forgot what it was because my dog got me up twice overnight, and I'm really kind of running on fumes right now. And
Was it Tin Cup with Kevin Costner?
It was not. No.
Going back to Field of Dreams with Tim Costner or Tim Costner, Kevin Costner.
Combining Tim Robbins and Kevin Costner.
Right.
No, it was not.
Okay.
I don't remember. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, we will.
If I remember it.
It'll be in the extras in the DVD set when we do that.
It'll be in the bloopers.
It'll be in the bloppers.
So no final recommendations?
Well, I could go on and on about Slapshot.
Oh, I remembered.
Oh, good.
Rudy.
Rudy. So tell us the story of Rudy.
That is actually kind of schmaltzy, but
it's a Disney movie too, isn't it?
It might be.
I think it is.
It's Sean Astin is Rudy Rudiger. He always wanted to go to Notre Dame. He always wanted to play football. He finally makes it there. He only makes it onto the field for one play, the last game of his final year, and he makes like the sack that saves the game for them or something. And he gets carried off the field with people chanting Rudy, Rudy, and it's good times. I mean, it's yeah.
He's challenged because he is of smaller stature. Is that correct?
I mean, he played a hobbit. So
no, I mean like in the movie. I mean in the movie. I don't mean him as an actor. I mean like his character. Why is this a big deal?
Well, because his family is poor and they're Irish Catholic, and he wants to go to Notre Dame, but they can't really afford it, and he ends up So that's it. All right, so I totally remembered, and now I botched that. But what about you? Got one last one?
No, I mean The River Runs Through It is a great movie.
About fishing.
I don't know if that's actually a sports movie. See, that's the thing is that. Are these sports movies or are they not sports movies? Oh, Men with Brooms is the final one I want to mention.
Yeah, you did mention that. Yeah,
Men with Brooms, I want to mention that. And for those, most of our listener out there who don't know what the name of that movie is or what it's about, it is Men with Brooms. It's a story about curling. And it stars Paul Gross, who some people might remember him as the Mountie in Due South.
Oh.
Which was the story of a Chicago cop teaming up with a Canadian Mountie, and they actually used a Canadian. So there was no cultural appropriation there because it was actually portrayed. He was portrayed. I met Paul Gross years ago. Seemed like a nice guy. But that's actually one of the funnier Canadian stories. There are a lot of very dark, for some reason, Canadian movies. They seem to be, I don't know what it is with those Canadians, but they're dark in their movies. And this is not one of them. Men with Brooms actually, when it opened in the theater, and I say that in the singular, not in the collective.
Wow.
No, it opened in many theaters.
Okay.
It actually was the most successful Canadian movie of all time for a while. I don't think it is anymore, but it was a comedy. It's about men on a curling team, and it's pretty good.
I bet I know what the most successful Canadian movie is.
You might be able to hit it, actually.
Bon Cop, Bad Cop?
Oui, très bien.
Oh, I didn't even look that up.
I don't know if it still is or not, but you know what? We did a podcast on that, and it didn't turn out for some reason, so we should maybe revisit that with all our copious time.
We should. Weren't they going to make a third Bon Cop, Bad Cop?
Yes.
Like the Trois?
But I think that the good cop died at the end of the second one, didn't he?
No, I don't think so. I think he just had like prostate cancer or something. So maybe
he was just incontinent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my dog's in diapers, so why can't he be too?
Right.
So on that
and on that note, what a happy note to go out on these in this trying time, all of us in diapers, because we don't have any toilet paper. Because one person out there is hoarding all the toilet paper.
I'm very excited that I finally got to order toilet paper on Amazon, and it will be delivered allegedly on April 21st.
But you're saying it's brown toilet paper, so I'm a little bit dubious.
Not pre-used toilet paper, just unbleached.
Getting it secondhand on eBay. This is where we are in the pandemic. Hardly used toilet paper.
So, once again on that note,
can we please end this show?
I'm not Dolls.
And I'm not Coco.